Hi everyone, I'm Karen from the Being Conformed Food Blog. Today I'd like to share how I make gluten-free pizza. The first thing I'm going to do is steam the cauliflower. I have the cauliflower in a steamer insert. I'm just going to cook that until the cauliflower is just soft. You can use fresh or frozen cauliflower. Today I'm using frozen. I have a 10-ounce bag of organic cauliflower florets, which yields approximately 1 cup cooked. While the cauliflower was cooking, I gathered up the rest of the ingredients we'll need for the pizza crust. We're going to need 1 teaspoon of garlic salt, 1 teaspoon of basil, 1 teaspoon of oregano. I additionally like to add a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric and a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. We need 1 pastured egg, 1 cup of grated cheese. For the cheese, I really like the Kerrygold Dubliner. It gives it a nice flavor. The cauliflower is done. I steamed it for approximately 15 minutes. After it's steamed, I drain the water off. I return the cauliflower to the pan. I add about a teaspoon of ghee. It helps to keep it from sticking to the hot pan and gives it a nice flavor. Then I just take a fork and mash it lightly. You want it to have the consistency of rice. You don't want large chunks, you just want small pieces, but you don't want it mashed thoroughly. So I'm going to mash this up and then let it cool off a little while I mix up the other ingredients for the crust. I've taken our ingredients, the egg, cheese, and spices, and mixed them up in a bowl. Now I'm going to add my 1 cup of cooked cauliflower. And mix that up. I've gone ahead and turned my oven on to preheat 450 degrees, which I did just before I started mixing this. Okay, for the pan, you can use a pizza pan or a baking sheet. You need to either grease it well or use a sheet of parchment paper. What I like to do is use my silicone type mat and a baking sheet. Just going to dump this out in the center. You can double this recipe, but I find that by trying to make a larger pizza crust, it has a tendency not to be as firm in the center. So if you do double, it works better to do 2 smaller sized pizzas than 1 large. This is bright yellow looking because of the turmeric that I used. So we're just going to start in the middle and begin to spread that out towards the outer edges. Just want a nice thin layer, just enough so that you can't see the pan. That will help it to crisp up so that it will hopefully produce a slice of pizza that you can pick up with your hands. Generally, I find that it works pretty well. So I'm going to continue spreading this until it's done. So I have the crust spread out into a thin layer, so it's ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to bake that at 450 degrees for approximately 12 to 15 minutes. We want the top of the crust to be somewhat browned and the outer edges to be completely browned. The crust is ready. I've taken it out of the oven. As you can see, it has a nice browned edge and some browning on top. While it was baking, I gathered the toppings. I have some sliced purple onions, some sliced fresh mushrooms. I had some of these tricolor peppers in the freezer, so I diced those up. I did not have any pizza sauce, so I took an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. I put it in a bowl and I added another teaspoon of the garlic powder, oregano, and basil, and mix that up. It won't take that much. I'll probably use the leftover in a soup or stew later on in the week. Had some leftover breakfast sausage, had some leftover Dublin or cheese grated. I also grated a little Monterey Jack raw cheese that I also had on hand. So I'm going to put the toppings on and I'll be back. I've got all my toppings on the pizza, so it's ready to go back into the oven. I left the oven on at 450 degrees. I'm just going to put this back in long enough to melt the cheese, approximately 3 or 4 minutes. I've taken the pizza out of the oven. It looks delicious. That's my recipe for gluten-free pizza. If you're following a gluten-free or grain-free diet, this makes a wonderful substitution. Thank you for watching. I'm Karen from Being Conformed Food Blog.